Hola, hello, hello, hello. Happy Saturday. Just waiting here to officially go live in the group. There you are, there we are. Hello. Hello, Dr. Gabi. I'm so excited, so happy, so grateful to have you on here. I'm already following all of the tips and tricks to sweat. That's something that I love to do, and I'm making it very intentional to do it first thing in the morning before my little ones wake up. So if I can give a mommy tip, is try to get the stuff done before they wake up for yourself, right? Otherwise it doesn't get done. So Dr. Gabi, I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm so excited that you accepted the invitation to talk to us a little bit about your expertise, which is in talking how toxicity can affect us and talk about the foundation of life, right? Which is the gut. And so a little background on Gabi's story. She is a doctor. She's PhD in scientific research and immunology, and she's a researcher for the University of São Paulo in Brazil. So before we got on live here, she asked me to give her support with English, but her English is great. Just if some words she can't remember, I'll be here to give her a little support. But so Gabi also has a very powerful story, a personal story, and she researched for over 20 years. She researched about cancer, and she also got very disappointed with that industry of research because every finding that she was able to accomplish, it was put on the side because it was all related to finding solutions for that. And that industry didn't like that. So that started kind of dimming her light. And this is how we met. We met through doTERRA. And that's one of the beautiful things about this big community, this big family of doTERRA, is that you get to meet, for me, the most wonderful people, right? Because we're all like-minded. We're all searching for the same thing, which is to live our best life, to be healthy, to be vital, right? To be happy and be balanced in all areas of life. So I met Gabi and she told me her story, and that really deeply touched me. And so since that time, it's been a few years now, I really had in the back of my mind, when Brazil is ready, I want her to connect with the scientific board here in the United States. And so this happened last year, and Gabi is kind of heading the board to happen in Brazil. So her and Nicole Stevens have been connected. I'm super excited for what is about to happen because, Brazil promises a lot as far as different plants and all kinds of good stuff for all of us to benefit from. And personally, Gabi, I asked her if I could share her story, and she said, yes, you can. And then ironically, she ended up being a patient. So first she was a researcher for cancer, and then she ended up being a patient. And she went through since 2015, right, Gabi? 2015?
Right.
She got diagnosed, and so she went through the battle of understanding how to deal with this disease. And from her personal experience and professional experience, it became her passion to really be able to be a force for good in the sense of being able to give people solutions and to open their eyes to other solutions, right? In the traditional medicine, which she is part of, the doctors told her that there was nothing else she could do. And then that's when she started opening up to the holistic side. And this is how she ended up in doTERRA, and that's how we all met. So it is with great pleasure and honor that I welcome Dr. Gabi Bisson here with us. And before she starts sharing her materials from yesterday's class, her and Carla are also starting to work together. So yesterday, Carla and I talked about the foundation, right? We're all babies at some point. So I thought that was super interesting too, and important for us to know that whether your parents gave you the right things, amazing, super grateful for that. And if they didn't, it's because they didn't know any better. So, and the beautiful thing about what we do, and it is one of the things that I cherish the most, is the fact that I feel that a lot of us here in our community are the cycle breakers, right? So if this wasn't done for you, you somewhat intuitively or intentionally ended up doing it for your children. And if you don't have children, you ended up doing it for the next generation. And this is the idea of what we do here, is to impact the next generations. And this is how it's done. It's us being aware and making that change, and then inspiring that change in other people, right? So Dr. Gabi, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here with you today. I'll do my best with the English, but Pam is here to support me. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I'll share my screen, and we are talking about the foundation of life, which is really, really exciting. Let me see. Let's see if it's okay. Do you see the, okay, let's go. So yesterday you had a wonderful presentation with Dr. Carla and Pamela. And today we have a second part to talk about the foundation of life. So just some information about me. I am graduating in biological sciences, and then I made my master and PhD in immunology, both all of them in the same university, University of São Paulo. I'm a professor in this university until now, and I also did my postdoctorate, but in Italy. And I always study aromatherapy because I really love to understand how essential oils work in our body. And so I had some courses in aromatherapy. So before we start, I would like to share with you this phrase about medicine, just to think about it. It says, medicine is not only a science, it is also an art. We can also think about all kinds of therapy. It does not consist of compounding pills and plasters. It deals with the very process of life, which must be understood before they may be guided. So I think it's really important that we all understand the process of life. And I think it's something that we are going to talk about today a little bit. We are going to talk the roots of health, and the importance of looking to the root causes of disease instead of trying to deal with every symptom of every disease, which is very common in the Western medicine. So we are talking so much today about toxicity and the tox process and the importance of it. So before we start, I would like to talk a little bit about epigenetics, because I think it's really important for us to understand what it means. It's very, it's like it can free us in a certain view, because this study shows that we are not that our genes do not determine our health destiny, our genetic destiny. Our choices in terms of lifestyle are really important. Epigenetics shows that we can turn on or turn off our genes, and it depends basically on the external environment, and also it depends on our internal environment. So our choices matter, and matter a lot. Let's see this phrase. I always bring some phrases because I like so much. I think that they are really, I like to think about what they say. Genetics loads the gun, but the environment, our lifestyle, we can think in this way, pulls the trigger. So of course we have our genetic information, but as I said before, our environment turns our genes on or off. So not all of our genes are expressed. So even if we have some genes for some disease, it's not a destiny to express this gene. It depends on our lifestyle choices. So if we look to this pyramid of doTERRA pyramid that shows about our choices about lifestyle, we can see some really, really important things that really influence the expression of our genes. These are some like this: eat right, proper nutrition, movement and metabolism, rest and manage stress, and reduce toxicity, and having a healthy home. We will talk so much today about stress and toxicity, and we will understand why they are closely connected. So epigenetics is really a good thing for us. For me, it means that we can be responsible for our health. It's really, really important. So this is another way that I consider very important to look when we think about health and when we think about disease. As I was mentioning before, we are conditioned in our Western medicine, in the ways the Western medicine think about health and disease. We are conditioned to treat and to look only to the symptoms. And we are not going to understand the root causes of disease. But if we really want to be health, we really need to look to the root causes of disease. So this illustration means that we have in this leaves of this tree some disease or even symptoms like cancer, lupus, asthma, flu, colds, acne, and so on. And the roots mean important things like mental and emotional stress, nutritional deficiencies, physical trauma, and toxic overload. This is the root causes of disease. And if we deal with these root causes, when we have some imbalances already, we are able to put our organs in a homeostasis state. And we have to remember that that we have an innate ability to self-regulate and to heal. Our organisms have this ability. But the problem nowadays is that we are influencing in a negative way.
Okay, so I think we lost Dr. Gabi, but she'll come back up. So far, when she speaks, she teaches our team about the importance of what she calls the biological terrain, and she's going to go into it a little bit more in depth. But when you talk about root cause, automatically comes to mind the cleanse, right? That's why we're doing a cleanse. And the self-responsibility that she mentioned about us being able to have that awareness is exactly why you're all here in this group. That's why we are all here together, is because we take responsibility for this being, and we commit to living our best lives, right? Self-regulate and heal. And I think when we talk about this cleanse, it's not only on the physical level, as we already know, right? We talked about emotions yesterday, and it's an overall transformation. And I'm going to share with you, I shared a little bit yesterday, but I believe it's relevant. Next Monday, Deb, the wonderful Deb, I love hearing her talk. And she is going to share about the supplements. And I mentioned yesterday with Carla some of the new findings that doTERRA shared with us. And I think it's relevant that we take a look at it again, since we're just waiting for Dr. Gabi to come back. So talking about a recent independently conducted study found that vitamins K and D deficiencies were independently associated with COVID-19 severity. So if you didn't catch that yesterday, I think this is pretty cool. I have right now 9 friends in this situation, and my first thing is double up on supplements. And we all also went through it in the beginning of was May 2020. Myself, my husband, and my 3 little ones. And intuitively, at that time, I told my husband, let's just double up on the supplements. And then it was validated after with this, and I was pretty happy to see this. Always trust your gut, right? Your intuition. No pun intended, but pun intended. Trust your gut. So, Dr. Gabi, I was just sharing about those findings about vitamin D that doTERRA was sharing with us. That was super awesome, and how the vitamins D and K levels in the Lifelong Vitality Pack are ideal. And then tomorrow, Monday, Deb is going to talk in depth about the supplements. So this is going to be awesome. So take it away, Dr. Gabi.
Oh, thank you. Let's start again. Is it okay? Okay. So I was talking with you about the disease tree and the importance to look at the root causes of disease, and which are the most important ones are mental and emotional stress, nutritional deficiencies, and toxic overload. And we are talking so much today about 2 points really important here: toxic overload, and of course, mental and emotional stress. So the key point here is that we need to treat roots, not leaves. Otherwise, we are continuing always to treat leaves for the rest of our lives. So another phrase, we never treat diagnosis, we never treat against symptoms. We always treat to make the regulation capacity better. We have to make the regulation capacity, which is innate in our organism, to work properly, okay? So this is the importance to look at the root causes of disease. So if we, how can we look to the root causes of disease? There's something that is really, really, really important. If we want to look to the root causes, if you want to make our organism to improve its innate ability to self-regulate, we have to look what we call the terrain theory. It's not more a theory, it's more like a science today. But it initiated, this terrain theory initiated in the mid-1900s. It was proposed by a French researcher called Antoine Béchamp. But at the same time, another French researcher, Pasteur, which one I think we already know, most of us. Pasteur proposed another theory called germ theory.
Dr. Gabi, you know, can I just mention Louis Pasteur? is the scientist responsible for pasteurization, right?
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So for Pasteur, he proposed that the main causes of all disease are germs, are microorganisms that really cause disease. It means that we have a particular microorganism causing a particular disease, and this is for him. Was the most important thing, the principal cause of all disease, of all infectious disease. If we look to the terrain theory proposed by Béchamp, it's different. For Béchamp, he was always looking for the person, not for the disease, and he was interested to understand what were the main causes of disease. And he said, treat the patient, not the infection. Disease is from a weakened immune system. So this explains why all of us, we can all at the same time be exposed to same pathogens, but some of us get sick and some of us do not get sick. So there are other things beyond the presence of the microorganism only. So what are these things that really affect our immune system? And I will try to explain the terrain. We have to think that a cell cannot be considered by itself without taking its environment into account. Every single cell in our body is surrounded by a matrix that we call extracellular matrix or biological terrain. Every single cell. We have trillions and trillions of cells, both eukaryotic and prokaryotic, that are derived in our cells of bacteria, viruses, and fungi. We have trillions and trillions of cells. All of them are surrounded by this extracellular matrix or biological terrain. So we have to remember another thing. Our cells have a plasma membrane, which is semi-permeable. And our cells exchange many nutrients and also metabolic results, some products that are a result of metabolic process of our cells. There's a continuous exchange between our cells and this extracellular matrix or biological terrain. So the quality of this terrain is really important because it affects how our cells function. So it is fundamental to our health. The quality of this terrain determines the quality of our health. We can think this way. Okay, so to understand it better, we can look to this illustration here, where we see a fish that is swimming in an aquarium. In this aquarium, the water is dirt. So if we consider the germ theory, what do we have to do if you want to make this fish health? We have to vaccinate or medicate or give to this fish some antibiotics, because through this theory we are considering that the microorganism is the principal or maybe the only cause of disease. So we have to medicate the fish and put it back into the aquarium, where it is continuing to swim in a dirt water. On the other side, the terrain theory, what do we have to do? We have to clean the water. And so the fish is going to swim in an aquarium where the water is clean. And so it is the same with our cells and our biological terrain. We have to have an adequate biological terrain in terms of pH, in terms of nutrients, trace elements, minerals, in terms of toxic substances. We cannot have an overload of toxic substance in this terrain. So if this terrain is not properly, it's not functioning properly, it will affect our cells, and then it will affect also all cells of our immune system. And so a weakened immune system will with a weakened immune system, we are not able to protect ourselves. So this is why the terrain is fundamental to our health. And we have to look to this. Yes?
There is a biological terrain analysis, which is really interesting because it's an assessment that you can do. It's basically measuring your overall health. It does not diagnose disease or specific things, but if you want to do an evaluation of, it's basically biological terrain kind of translates to body soil, and it includes like oxidation potential, how resistant you are of body fluids and pH, all kinds of things. So I highly recommend. So if you really want to get deep into how to clean up your body soil, so you have an idea of what's going on, there is a test that you can do. It's called biological terrain analysis.
Yes, it's very important to do and to see the quality of our terrain, because we can, if the terrain is not adequate, we can turn it, we can make things that will, how to say that will correct our terrain. Let's say like this. We can correct our biological terrain. So let's start to talk about the toxic burden. And the definition of toxic burden is this one. Your total toxic burden is the accumulation of all the different toxins in your body at any given time. Look at this, accumulation of all the different toxins in your body at any given time. It means that we accumulate toxins. This is the problem. We are exposed to toxins in our environment on a daily basis. And since we were born, every day, and everywhere, in everything. And these toxins accumulate in our body. As I was mentioning before, our body has an innate ability to self-regulate and to heal. But the problem is that we are not able, because of our lifestyle, our modern lifestyle, we are not able anymore to do this like we were able to do before, many years before. Our lives have changed so much. And in one of the problems is the toxic burden, and we can always think about toxic overload, because the truth is that we have an overload of toxic substances. So we can think about our innate ability to detox as a bucket. Let's think that we have all the toxic substances are going inside this bucket, and it is okay for our body because it has the ability to naturally detox. But the problem is that as toxic substances accumulate along our entire life, we arrive into a point in which our toxic bucket there is an overflow. So how can we keep our toxin bucket from overflowing? This is the problem. We are surpassing the capacity, the natural capacity of detoxifying because of the huge amounts of toxin in everywhere. So just to remember ourselves that our body has one software program, life and healing. and we have to support this natural ability. And one of the important things is to look at the toxin, to the toxic burden or toxic overload. So we are exposed to toxins in the external environment, but we also are exposed to toxins inside our bodies. So we have exotoxins and endotoxins. The top most common environmental toxins are some of which are included here, but these are some of them. Per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAs, which are found in our soil and groundwater. Something that is something to worry about. That virtually all Americans, including newborn infants, have PFAS compounds in their blood. Another common type of environment toxins are heavy metals, mercury, cadmium, lead, and other harmful heavy metals, which are found in soil, water, and food. We have also pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, like glyphosate and other organophosphates. One study evaluating 8 countries, including the US, detected pesticide metabolites in every sample of urine tested. It's really we have to be concerned about these things. Another one is PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, which are not longer produced in the US, but they are very difficult to be degraded. So in all people have been likely all been exposed to this kind of toxic substance. And studies have linked the high PCB exposure with increased cancer risk and have demonstrated early childhood exposure to PCBs with ADHD. And another kind of exotoxin is EMF, electromagnetic frequencies sensitivity. It comes from cell phone, tablets, Wi-Fi, and other devices, and can impact every system in our bodies. So these are only some examples of the most common environmental toxins. And as I said before, we have also endotoxins. Some examples here: intestinal bacteria, Dr. Carla talked about. And also you have an excellent presentation about it before. We know that we have trillions of microorganisms inside our bodies. They compose what we call microbiota. And so we have trillions of good bacteria and other microorganisms. But the problem is when we have a kind of imbalance in the microbiota composition, and we have what we call dysbiosis. And when it happens, we have a toxic environment. For example, we can have an yeast overgrowth, like a candida overgrowth, that this also disrupts our healthy gut microbiota. And candida also produces the toxin, which is very important, that is called acetaldehyde. We have hidden infections like Epstein-Barr, which are very difficult to diagnose, and they unfortunately they can exhaust our immune system. We can have problem with medications. Of course, some medications can be necessary in general, but they also contribute to our toxic burden. And we have something that is very important. We are going to talk about a little bit here, which is stress. And stress is an often overlooked toxin. We are going to talk about chronic stress, which is one of the most toxic and detrimental influences on our overall health. Okay, so we have exotoxins, but also endotoxins. So we were talking about the toxic overload. So the accumulation of toxins within the body can cause endocrine, which is our hormone, endocrine disruption, which is it's a very bad thing to happen. And also inflammatory dysregulation, which can then alter the chemical messengers our body relies on to carry out proper immune function. So the toxic overload can disrupt our hormonal system, which also causes dysregulation in our inflammatory responses, which in turn affects negatively our immune function. Okay, so this is really something important to look at if we want to work on the root causes of disease, or even better, if you want to work on root causes, on the root of our health. So another thing that we should be concerned about is only an estimative. According to the World Health Organization, we have more or less 800 chemicals which are known to interfere with the hormonal system, and they are also present in the products that we use on a daily basis, like our personal products, our beauty products. Some of them are triclosans, surfactants, parabens, benzophenanes, oxybenzone, mineral oil, phthalates, formaldehyde, aluminum, and so on. I brought today, this is a document, an old document because it's from 2012, but let's see what they say in this document, which was produced by a cooperation of the World Health Organization with another health group organization. They say that we're only looking to the tip of the iceberg. Let's see what they say here. Because only a small fraction of the hundreds of thousands of synthetic chemicals in existence have been assessed for endocrine disrupting activity, and because many chemicals in consumer products are not identified by the manufacturer, they have only looked at the tip of the iceberg. How many EDCs, which are endocrine disrupting chemicals, are there? Where do they come from? What are the human and wildlife exposures? What are their effects individually and in mixtures during development and adulthood, and even across generations? We don't know anything about it. What are their mechanisms of action? How can testing for EDCs be improved? And all of these questions need answer. They are really, really important. So the problem here is that we already know that many of these endocrine disrupting chemicals are really connected with a number of different diseases, major chronic disease like inflammation, allergy, asthma, autoimmune diseases, cancers like cervix, ovary, breast, prostate, testes, irregular menstruation, polycystic ovary, menopause, problems in the menopause, metabolic syndrome, and neurobehavioral disorders, and so on. There are many, many diseases which we know there are really related to the massive presence of these endocrine disrupting chemicals in our organisms. So this is really an important thing. Some signs that we indeed have some degree of toxicity or toxic overload are these: bloating or gas, mood swings, anxiety or irritability, migraines, brain fog or difficulty focusing, fluid retention, low energy, sugar cravings. These are some of the signs that we have this toxic overload. And this is a kind of remember for us that we need to look deeper, because what are we seeing at the tip of the iceberg? The symptoms like joint pain, autoimmune disease, fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, and so on. But what do we not, or we do not see? The presence of heavy metals, toxic substances like glyphosate, toxins, parasites, chronic stress, intestinal permeability, oxidative stress, These are some things that we are not able to see. And these are really, really important because this, as we are talking, they form the root causes of everything. So it's crucial to reduce toxic load. We have to diminish our exposure to toxins in things that we are able to do, but we also have to reduce toxic load. What we normally think that toxin is, we usually think that the toxin means that we are going to use juice cleansers, skinny teas, laxatives, celery juice, detox drinks. They're going to become vegans or doing a keto oh my God, I forgot. Diet, a keto diet. But what the toxin really is? It's supporting the body foundationally so that our liver, bladder, kidneys, skin, and lymphatic system can do what it is designed to do. The major organs of the tox and eliminations are this one that we see here, the ones that we see here. Liver, gallbladder, kidneys, skin, lymphatic system. The major one, the principal is the liver. But we have to consider that the other ones also do this kind of job. They are also important, but the major one is our liver. Okay, so we have means to reduce the toxic load. We have the possibility to use some essential oils and some supplements, and you are going to see a lot of this in the next few days. We have to really, one of the important things is to focus on the liver health. Our liver, so as I was mentioning, is the major organ of the tox process, but is a vital organ. It processes more than 500 vital functions. It is related to more than 500 vital functions. So it is one of the most important organs that we have. So we have to help, if I can say it like this, to help this organ to do his job, which he can do brilliantly. But the problem is that today this natural ability is being surpassed by the toxic overload, for example. Okay, and we have some essential oils that are really effective in giving support to the liver, like lemon, geranium, the mixed endocrine, and other essential oils too. Another thing that we have to focus, and I have to remember to tell you that we are talking about liver, we are got the liver, gut health, and just to remember that everything in our body is interconnected. And when I'm saying that the liver has to function properly, the gut either, the functioning of these organs also affects the quality of our biological terrain, and the quality of our biological terrain affects the functioning of these organs, as the quality of the biological terrain affects every single cell in our body. Okay, so another important thing we have to look at is the gut health. I'm not going to say a lot of things here because you had brilliant presentations before. So just remember, we have an important intestine microbiota formed by trillions and trillions of microorganisms. It's like an endocrine organ. Indeed, our intestine produces more than 20 hormones. It also influences hormones such as estrogen, cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and thyroid hormones, just to name some examples. Okay, and we have that imbalance in the proportion of good and bad microorganisms, we can have a condition called dysbiosis, which causes systemic inflammation. Inflammation is something that we have to be concerned about when we think in health, because it's the foundation of, I can say that, almost every disease, particularly the chronic disease. So it is related to toxin, to the toxic burden. It is also related to the dysbiosis. It is also related to stress. We're going to talk more about it in the next slides. But so the things that are really important are to provide support for the good function of the liver and the intestine. Okay, so I just put this scientific work here just to show you that we have some essential oils that are able to impact our microbiota, which is very important for us. And in this case, particularly, it is a study that was done in Italy, in which they showed that a component of geranium, palmarosa, rose essential oils, which is called geraniol, was administered to IBD patients, patients that were suffering from irritable bowel syndrome. And they administered geraniol orally to these patients, and they observed that the symptoms of IBD get a significant improvement. And they also observed that geranium was able to impact positively the composition of intestinal microbiota. So this is very interesting. Yes.
Yeah. And Dr. Gabi, geranium is in Endocrine, right?
Yes.
We are using Endocrine abundantly throughout the cleanse and restore month. So this is amazing.
Yes. So, yes. Let's talk about right now something that is really, really important. I will focus on stress, which is something that affects almost every person in the whole world. But just to remember that there's a field in immunology called psychoneuroimmunology, which shows that our emotional states, our behaviors, indeed affect our physical body. They indeed affect our health. So there's an important connection between our mind and our body, which we call a mind-body connection. And we have to look to this. And nothing in our body is separate. Everything works. Everything is interconnected. And so, and the same is we can apply to our mind and body. Okay. Today, we know much more about what happens when we have some types of emotion. There's a work, not one single work, indeed many different studies that have shown that when we feel some types of emotion, we produce some neurotransmitters of neurochemicals. Our biochemistry is related to the type of emotion. For example, when we feel hostility, we produce huge amounts of cortisol, the non-stress hormone. When we feel affection and love, we produce oxytocin. When happiness, we produce dopamine. When we feel the well-being, we produce mostly serotonin and endorphins. So our biochemistry changes depending on the emotion that we feel. So I always say that our emotions are biological. And we know many things today about stress. It's something that we have to be concerned about today. Stress is the common risk factor of 75 to 90% of all diseases. And unfortunately, it affects around 90% of the whole population of the population in the whole world. So something that we are dealing in a daily basis. I always say that this stress itself is not a bad response. It's a physiological response. This is maybe you have already heard about it, is the fight or flight response. When we are living in a primitive world, you are facing animals on a daily basis, let's say it, and we had to have a very quick response to save our lives. And so when we mobilize this kind of response, which is the fight or flight response, we put our entire body in an alert way, in an alert form. So we are prepared or to fight or to run. Our cells, in less than 3 seconds, for example, they made more than 1,300 different metabolic reactions. So our bodies are abundantly inundated by different molecules like cortisol, including the stress hormone. The problem today is that we are mobilizing the same kind of response, but in response to things like when we are worried with financial problems, problems with our work, and so on. So we are always mobilizing this same kind of response in a continual manner. So we have levels of stress that we are not more able to manage. Okay, and
we are basically in the same fight or flight, but not because we're running from animals, because we are running from everything else in life too, right? So it's the same response, just a different scenario.
Yes, exactly. And when it happens, we are disturbing a very important axis in our organism, which is called HPA Excess. It includes our hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, which are located in our cerebellum, in our brain. And also, they are connected, both these structures, and they are also connected with our adrenal glands, which are located above our kidneys. They produce hormones to communicate between them, and the final hormone that is produced is the stress hormone cortisol, which is not bad in itself. Cortisol is not bad, but the problem is that it is being produced continuously nowadays. So we have an excess of cortisol, which disrupts the equilibrium of this HPA axis. What is important with this HPA axis? We are talking about an axis that controls our hormonal system, controls our endocrine system. And we know today that our immune system is connected to our brain and also to our endocrine system. So when we disrupt this axis, we are also affecting negatively, in this case, our immune system. This is why continuous levels of stress depress our immune system, and we are prone to develop chronic disease like cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, depression, neurodegenerative disorders, and many others. Okay.
So, Dr. Gabi, to have a little bit of cortisol in your system is necessary for us to have strong immunity, right?
Yes.
That you taught me that.
Yes.
So that's when I learned that it's not the fact that we produce cortisol, but it's the fact that we don't stop producing it.
Yes.
Right?
I think we have some general problems nowadays. We are not able to manage toxic burden, the stress levels, and also other problems that I'll talk a little bit later. This is a common problem nowadays. And we can remember that the essential oils are called adaptogenic. What does it mean? An adaptogen is a substance that helps us to put our organisms in a homeostasis state or a balanced state in response to different kinds of stressors. So this is really important for us and help us effectively to deal with stress levels. Here I put only some examples of essential oils that are known for this capacity to help us manage stress and anxiety. For example, lavender, tangerine, copaiba, bergamot, vetiver, Roman chamomile, clary sage, frankincense, but we have many more essential oils that are also able to give us some effective support indeed to deal with this kind of things like stress and anxiety. The problem also with the stress, and we talked about it before with the toxic overload, is that stress is also connected with inflammation. So inflammation is a common characteristic that we can see as a result of toxic overload, of high levels of stress, of that dysbiosis, and it is really something that links these things to chronic diseases. And I already mentioned about chronic disease like cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, neurodegenerative disorders, cancers, obesity, diabetes, and so on. We have some in common, a common soil for the development of this disease, which is the chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is a low-grade inflammation. It is different from an acute inflammation. It is silent. In the same way, we can think in this case of inflammation. We were talking that we are not able to anymore to manage properly stress levels, the toxic burden, and we are not able to manage properly inflammation. And so all of us, all of us have an inflamed organism. Some less inflamed, some have more inflamed, but all of us have more or less inflamed organisms. And inflammation is the base of every single disease, particularly the chronic disease. So inflammation is the common pathway also of stress-related disease. So we have really to look at this. And just to mention that when we are talking about inflammation, we have also essential oils that help us to manage manage inflammation, to have a proper and adequate inflammatory response. We have essential oils with anti-inflammatory activities. One of the essential oils that I like the most is copaiba, because it has potent anti-inflammatory properties, but it also helps us to deal with anxiety, and it is also able to modulate our immune system. So it is a very powerful essential oil. It is rich. One of the components of the copaiba essential oil is called beta-caryophyllene. It has other components, but the major one is beta-caryophyllene, which one we can see in this bar here in this illustration. And we know that beta-caryophyllene binds to a receptor that is part of what we call the endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is really important for many different physiological responses in our body. We have two types of receptors in the membrane and the plasma membrane of our cells. The CB1, the receptor 1, cannabinoid receptor 1, or the CB2. The CB1 is mainly localized in the central nervous system, and some of them are also in the periphery. And the CB2 is mainly localized in the periphery, particularly in our immune cells. So, and when the beta-caryophyllene, which is really present in significant amounts in copaiba essential oil, when this component binds to CB2, we have an anti-inflammatory response, we have an immune response modulation, and we also have an anti-anxiolytic effect. So this is something that is really effective and help us to maintain our health. So we have other essential oils that also have beta-caryophyllene, like the ylang ylang, and we have many essential oils that have anti-inflammatory properties, like lavender, peppermint, ginger, and many others, just to name a few here. So if we think about what we were talking during this presentation, I can ask you a simple question. Is your bucket overflowing? What we have to look at? To chronic stress, to processed foods, to overuse of antibiotics, to pathogens, to environmental toxins, which are really important, to the frequent use of non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs, which is very common in our lives, to food sensitives. All these things contribute to the overflowing of the bucket. And so we have really to optimize our terrain if we want a better health. And we have ways of doing it, like lowering inflammation with an appropriate foods, with a healthy mindset. We can also reduce our exposure to cell phones, to tablets, to other things. We have to support our microbiome. We have to support our immune system to get good sleep, of course, to spend time in the sun. All the things affect the quality of our biological terrain. And I would like to finish the presentation with two phrases of Béchamp, which are: the primary cause of disease is in us, always in us. And the other is: we do not catch disease, we build them. So in face of all these things, I would like to ask you, what do you choose to plant? And I also would like to thank you, all of you, for being here today.
I love listening to you. It is such a gift to be able to learn with you. So I call all these wonderful souls that I'm honored to be able to learn from, I call them my doctor mentors. So they give me a sense of trust to be able to help other people do this, right? So as she was doing her presentation, I was here thinking and taking notes. I love taking notes, so I remember to kind of mention these things, and I believe that can be helpful to some people. If you take a look at all the wonderful professionals that we have speaking here, it's the same message, but in a different way that's being delivered, right? All professionals will give you the same message. And one thing to remember is I'm not an expert on really anything. I'm just here trying to master my own body, my mind and my soul, you know, and that's the beauty of it as well. In this community, you can count with the knowledge of these wonderful professionals and be able to take some from it and take it out from here and to others, right? And one thing too that I think it's super important, and I keep emphasizing this, especially for parents, is once if antibiotics were part of your life, it is super important that you do a cleanse. You know, it's said that it takes about 3 years for you to recover from that damage that's done by antibiotics. But if you do things like this cleanse, then your body is able to kind of balance again, right? The microbiome, that's what we've been talking about. So we have the diverse bacteria levels that Carla spoke about yesterday. So just to simplify things for us, like layman's term, right, is just keep taking care of your body, keep taking care of your gut, because then that's the foundation for you to really look at in all sides of life, right? The gut is basically connected to the physical body, immunity, mental and emotional health. It is basically the foundation of life. And that's the name of the presentation that Carla and Gabi do together, is it is the foundation of life. So if you can take anything from this, is we start the cleanse in 2 days, which I'm so excited, on the 10th, today's the 8th. And we are filled with all this information. So we go into doing something for ourselves, a lot more informed, right? And that is the whole goal of us doing this together, is informed decisions and you taking control of the things you can control, right? And the other things you can't control, we just let them flow. Dr. Gabi, thank you so much for your presence, for your time, and for your love, for always being super present and teaching us. I really, truly appreciate everything that you do. And guys, 2 days, we get the cleanse started, and share your experiences, post things that you're excited about, maybe things that you've learned and it has helped you have a different insight about something, because that's how we learn, if we can just share with each other, right? So, and I think from my notes here, I took a bunch of, but oh yes, so a little less things here. I wrote down to reduce toxic load. Gabi wrote down a few things, and eat organic. We've talked about that here, but also reducing the toxic load in your home. So cleaning, personal care, makeup products, the air quality. Yes, you can improve the air quality by diffusing essential oils in your home. Water filter, sweat, dry brushing, tongue scraping, gua sha, which are in the Essential Glow ebook. And Lauren is going to go into these practices a little bit more in depth. Anything that you can do to exfoliate. So you get an exfoliant in the shower. That the doTERRA has a wonderful one with grapefruit. I love that one. And any spot treatment. So maybe after you cleanse, or maybe throughout the cleanse, give yourself a little extra gift. You know, this is already a gift, but just go, maybe call up a girlfriend or a boyfriend and say, hey, let's go get a spa treatment somewhere. I love Korean spas. So if you have a Korean spa in your town, I highly recommend. And turn off the news and negativity, because this can also be a mental detox, right? Gabi, I love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to you all soon. Thank you, guys. Have a beautiful rest of your Saturday. Aloha.